I told her that she needs to have her own Instagram so she could post this stuff, and she doesn't want to make one. She just wants me to post it on mine. And like I was telling you guys before, my friends started making fun of me because everyone likes my mom's art more than mine art. I think it's so precious, dude.
Welcome to Waiting to Dry, the fanciest art podcast on earth. We discuss topics of society and culture with whimsy and gravitas. I am your co-host, Sergio Lopez.
I'm Josh Lawyer.
And we have Gan Dalf on the podcast today. Yes, that Gan Dalf.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for doing this.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So Gandalf is your God-given name.
Oh, yeah. My parents were hippies.
Middle name is the Gray, or how'd that work out?
I don't really know anymore.
But yeah, you're kind of like, we met you locally, so I always figure that if someone we meet here, they're locally, but you're Oakland-based artist.
I'm Oakland-based, and I'm from New York. I've lived in LA for, a minute.
A chunk of time.
I ran away from that real quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, this is not the place. It's like, Oakland's okay, though. It's like just dirty enough.
Right. Yeah, we like to call it patina.
Yeah.
That makes it classy.
It's like a pea and shit patina all over everything.
Exactly. Yeah. Sewage smell.
Yeah. In the summer, it's like straight hot garbage, but that's exactly like New York, so I'm used to it. It's like a nostalgic smell.
So you grew up in New York?
I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York, or in a town close to Poughkeepsie, but everyone seems to know that.
I don't know it.
Why not?
It's a little bit upstate, I want to say.
It is.
Okay.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes on the Metro North, and it is a bona fide shithole. I ran away from that also really quickly down to the city where we all tend to go when we get out of our hometowns. Like,
right.
New York City was just an arm's length away, and my sister went down there first, so I was like, I'm following you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like it seems like when you're young, you have to go towards people, and then the older you get, the more you're like, I kind of hate people. So you start pulling away, and you're like, I just want to make this shelter to protect myself from all the garbage out there.
Totally. That's why we're all like visual artists. Like, we're not musicians. We don't have to perform on a stage, like, God forbid.
For sure.
Even performing here, like, I'm like scared. But
yeah, live painting I never do, literally, because of that. It's like I don't want people watching me while I do this.
Oh, dude, I just did a live painting thing for Bullet Bourbon, and the first night I was there, I sketched everything out on the table that I was painting, and the whole day, like, they called me in a day early, so I ran out of work, ran over there, got all of my supply, didn't eat because I'm smart like that, and got there. And it got to a point where, they were making food. I could have eaten, but I was so nervous that I couldn't get anything down, or even if I did, it would come straight back up.
Huh.
So it was really nerve-wracking. And then people wanted to come talk to me about, what I was doing. And I ended up leaving early.
Wow.
I was like, I'm going to pass out. And, was super apologetic. But the production team were amazing.
Yeah.
They were so accommodating, so...
Yeah, I don't know.
It turned out fine.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. We do an art form that is kind of off in the corner, we're not making noise so people look at us. We're in our...
It's mostly don't look at me. Look at this pretty thing that I made, and don't ask me about it because I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird because I've always thought that, the reason that, at least for me, and I feel like a good chunk of artists, we do find this value through art where people are like, oh, that's amazing. It's like a pat on the back. But then I don't know where it changed for me, at least, where it's It's like people are like, oh, and I'm like, oh no, don't pay attention to me. Like, go somewhere
Don't
else,
look
please.
at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's like a lot of people have these like big, beautiful studios, and a lot of us like work well in messes and like total disaster areas.
Oh yeah.
I can work anywhere. Like I usually will sit on my bed and like draw in my sketchbook.
Right.
Or I'll even bring my paints over to my bed because I just like I like getting as comfortable as I can, like a rodent, and like making a nest of all of my paints, and
that's awesome.
Sometimes I do fall asleep with like my markers everywhere.
That's
just
crazy.
Wake up with them poking me in the eye.
You need to get like one of those beds that can like kind of go to like a 45-degree angle, so you're like kind of sleeping.
Like what old people have.
Yeah. And you have like some thing that lifts your arm, so you don't have to really move.
It's an armchair bed. That'd be sick.
That'd be awesome.
I would never move.
Chuck Close figured it out.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have wheels and move on with the remote,
But yeah, I don't know. I know. I mean, Sergio, you do plein air, so
yeah. Well, you're talking about doing the live painting thing. I remember back in maybe 2009, it was one of my first like putting my art out there gigs, and I was just doing everything. I was doing a lot of live painting, and one time I was at Club 6. I don't know if you know where that, or it used to be. It was on 6th Street and Market. It was just some nightclub, and they had some art show there, and they had us do some live painting. So there were like rappers on stage, and I'm in the corner just doing a painting.
With like the music in your intro playing in the background in your head.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
I would pay to watch that.
Yeah.
Sergio live painting while rapping is going on
Man, it's
in a
so
club.
funny.
Is not how I ever pictured any part of your life.
I know. It's weird because it was Camp Low, who was a person I'm a fan of, a group I'm a fan of, and they were rapping. It's like, this is cool, I guess.
Watch me paint this beautiful babe over here.
Yeah.
It's really funny, like the different live painting things that are out there, because there's so many, like festivals and shit. They're like, we want some psychedelic craziness,
right? For
and we want you to be on psychedelic, right?
Yeah.
I have a very good friend that was working with Alex Gray, and he got his big start from, going up to Alex Gray's weird commune, which is weird. Because I grew up in that area where he moved from the city up to Wappingers Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which that's like the area that I grew up mostly.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And Alex Gray came up with his crazy.
I'm not even familiar with who Alex Gray is.
He did all the Tool covers, like all those weird.
He's like Joe Rogan's favorite artist.
Is he really?
That kind of makes sense.
I guess he draws what DMT looks like.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That's what he's known for. Everyone's like, he's amazing. Totally walked me through my DMT. I went to go visit his big mansion thing, and it's beautiful. Yeah, because me and my sister were like, we want to go see the art. Like, my sister went to Pratt. Just for a little reference, she's an industrial designer, so she paved the way for me to go to art school, essentially. Wow. But we wanted to go up to see Alex Gray's house, and we got there and didn't know there was some weird seance-y cult church thing happening. We walked in, and there was like all these shoes, and we're like, oh shit, like something's like, it's not just come check out my art. And there were people there like talking about their intentions and their I don't know, man. I'm not a part of that world, but we walked in, we were looking at the art, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, I don't know. People were standing up and like talking about their experiences, and
that's so weird.
It was very strange. Like the air of it was weird,
So many weird pockets in the world of people that
totally.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. Of like, what was it? I forget what cult or something I was thinking about, but it was just like, it's crazy how many people just are trying their hardest to find something to follow and believe in.
That's totally
it's so weird.
It is weird.
I remember I don't even know if it's true, but I remember my brother telling me that there was this New York clipping that just had a phone number and said, follow me. And then they did like some experiment. This is like hearsay from him. So he said that they did an experiment where they just wrote a number down and they wrote "follow me," and they just had like thousands and thousands of people like, "I'm willing to follow you to the end of the earth," like, and all these people just like, like so desperate to like find something to believe in. It's weird.
People are so willing to cling on to something. Yeah. Well, people want to relate, I think.
Yeah.
Like the Alex Gray thing, like everyone's talking about their experiences, and then, after they're talking about it, everyone's like, acceptance.
Right.
Like, there's a cool blanket. Like, I'm not knocking it.
For sure.
But
as long as you're not doing any really weird shit.
No, fuck if I know. I was only there one time. I was like, I don't want to stick around to find out. Because people got naked and there was a drum circle.
Right.
I was like, this is some crazy shit that I don't really want to see what happens from here.
Yeah, there's like a naked drum circle and Sergio's in the corner live painting.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. There were live painters there too. And there's Alex, and I don't know. His wife's name is Allison, I want to say. I think she was there too. But everybody was cross-legged on the floor, and me and my sister were like walking around trying to look at the art like straight assholes.
Have you ever done any like live painting where you had to be nude?
No.
You should try it out.
All right.
The sideways glance, like.
Yeah. So, I mean, you told us earlier you went to art school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of hinted before we started that it was a thing you enjoyed a lot, I believe.
Oh, yeah. It was so brutal. Like, I started going to like a college prep thing called the Mill Street Loft in Poughkeepsie.
Okay.
And Todd Petit, shout out. He's the illest. I love him. He's the one that really pushed me and started critiquing me in a really harsh way. Because I'm sorry, baby artists out there, you need to be told that you suck. Oof. And still, I mean, I appreciate it when people tell me like, you didn't look at a real hand when you drew this. And I'm like, oh, I got caught. No. But yeah, Todd was very loving, but he was strict. He wanted you to use reference, and he didn't want you to just, he wanted you to use actual live reference if you could. But if you could take your own pictures, that was just as good.
For sure.
And he pushed me to go to SVA where, I was met with even more brutal criticism that a lot of the kids that were attending did not prepare themselves for. So there's a lot of like kids dropping out in the beginning. I went to FIT first and then transferred to SVA. So there's even more of like transfer where I met so many different types of professors, and I felt mostly challenged at SVA. Nice. Because, there were moments where like the tears would start falling and the professors would be like, don't fucking do that. Wow. Like straight up tell you not to cry. They're like, I don't want to hear it. You don't have this. You don't have that. You have so much potential and you're wasting it away. I don't want to know why.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, man. And that is like kind of the thought that I have when I'm talking to people about their art. I'm like, I want to hear about not the struggle, but like, I mean, maybe what you were going through when you were creating this, because we all go through heavy shit.
For sure.
And make different work accordingly. So,
Yeah. Damn. I don't know. I mean, I didn't go to art school, so I don't know if that's like a standard thing, but
I don't know. No, how about you?
Not quite to that level. No. I wonder if that's more of a East Coast art thing.
Maybe, because it was.
No, that's New York.
Yeah. Where did you go to school, Sergio?
At the Academy of Art here in San Francisco.
Oh, right. Yeah. You did tell me that before.
Usually they're like bottle fed while they're painting. The art teacher like holds them and.
Is it like absinthe and milk?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. They have quilt time where they just sit around with quilts wrapped around them.
It was basically the Alex Gray circle, but an art school. Yeah.
Really?
No, it wasn't.
Oh. I believe you. I'm very gullible, everyone.
Gan Dalf the Gullible.
Yeah, there you go. That's my new middle name.
Nice. So did you flourish with that? Like with all that like pressure?
Yeah, I think that it really helped me snap out of it. Like what I was dealing with was just almost self-inflicted, like, dating the wrong person, hanging out with the wrong crowd, partying way too much. Like, there was the New York City rave scene that I was totally engulfed with. I loved it. We were running around and like partying in soccer fields in Coney Island. Like, that was dangerous as shit. Like,
really?
Yeah, there was a gang that dressed up as cops and held up kids at gunpoint at one point. They were getting tased on the path and like robbed. Like, damn. So it was insane. So this is the stuff that I was dealing with on the side.
Right.
And it was just a wild ride. Like, I was enamored with the partying and the social aspect of being a young adult in New York City. So college kind of faltered a little bit, and I regret that totally. I wish that like I was where I'm at now, where I'm like, go to bed at 10, wake up at 8, and just get to it.
For sure.
But sometimes I wasn't even going to bed.
Yeah,
for sure.
For days.
Coffee is a hell of a drug, isn't it?
A little spiked coffee, yeah.
That's cool. So what brought you this direction?
Well, I wanted to go. So my sister moved to New Jersey the second I got to New York for my school. And then she moved out to Oakland a little bit later to work for Bare Essentials.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, just keep moving further away. Like, she's my best friend. So I was like, I want to come out to California too. And California was always like that big, shiny thing, as I'm sure New York is for a lot of Californians.
For sure.
So I wanted to come out here for that. But what brought me to LA was the, what's it called? Freak bike culture. Like
freak bike culture?
Yeah.
So like
tall
those
bikes,
super, okay, I know what you're talking about.
All that weirdness.
Guys
bike
riding
polo.
like those bikes melted to another, or welded to another bike, welded to.
Yeah, it's fun
bike.
as hell. I met a couple of kids from LA randomly, and they needed a place to stay. So I like gave them my couch, and they showed me all the things that they were doing out in LA. Like they were making little velodromes, the bowls, and then they were setting them on fire while people were riding on them. It was nuts.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Crazy looking. Yeah.
That's nuts.
So they showed me videos like that, and I was like, well, if they're doing that in California, or if they're doing that in LA, like, I'm down.
That's where I need to be.
Yeah.
That is so random.
I know. Dude, it was so random the way that I met this person, too, because I was just, like, at this bar in Brooklyn that was an old firehouse. We were all sitting outside, and me and my friend were talking about cane toads. And this kid had a cane toad around his neck. He was working on his bike next to us. And as we're talking to these other people about the cane toad problem in Australia, random, a cane toad floats into our vision, and we're like, what the fuck? And it's this kid, and he's working on his weird bike. And we just started talking. We hit it off. I was like, your bike is weird. You're weird. Clearly, let's be friends.
Right.
And yeah, he's the one that showed me a lot of videos of an event they have out in LA and down in Salton Sea too.
Damn, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Wild
That's like
people.
the most random thing that probably is a huge life-changing event.
Totally.
Based off of a tall bike.
I think most of my life is like that. You'd be surprised.
Yeah. I don't know. There's this like interesting conversation about free will that people are having right now and how they don't believe in it. And it's based off of like things like the luck that, that changed your life and you had no control over that. It just kind of happened. I mean, there is you actually moving out, but meeting the person at that specific time and being in that specific spot is so
it's
random.
so random. And I wasn't even, my friend had to drag me out of the house that night because I was fresh out of like a really tumultuous relationship. I don't know if that's the right word.
Tumultuous.
So I like didn't want to go out. I was like, don't touch me. Don't look at me.
Right.
I just want to be inside and like hold my cat and like rock back and forth. So she like grabbed me and like dragged me out. She's like, we're going to talk to hot dudes. And I was like, fine.
Why does she sound like that?
She's nuts. Her name's Gisette, and I met her in the rave scene, actually. In the Bronx, we were in like this random golf course rave. It was just like, outlaw rave in the middle of nowhere.
Nice.
But,
that's awesome.
Yeah. I got good friends. They drag me out when I need to, and then shit like that happens. Changed my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then you were in LA for a bit, and then you moved up here?
Yeah, I was in LA for like maybe a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in an old church with like 20 people.
I've had friends that lived in that same exact environment.
Was it the Church of Fun?
Well, it was in different cities.
Oh, I see.
They're like, oh, we live in this church. It's like, what? Like, yeah, there's like 30 of us.
It's so rad. I recommend that to anybody because, like, man, it's wild. Like, going out of your room, like, you can be a shut-in, like I was, and then you walk outside and there's like 10 really good people to talk to, and they're probably doing something fucking weird. Mm-hmm. So you just jump into that.
Yeah. Sometimes it seems like it can go up in a blaze of glory, though.
Totally.
If like you get the wrong environment, like, oh, you guys all hate each other there.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I had to like separate myself from that because there's crazy social politics that were happening there, because it wasn't just our community. It was like 3 other houses that had like almost just as many people living there too. So we were all like little weird freaks together, and they're all still there. There were some houses that like went up in a big blaze, like not a literal fire, but yeah, there's people that sometimes they would fuck up and then everybody would turn on them. And that was some of the most heinous, crazy shit that I've ever seen. Like, we're now the judge, the jury, and the executioner.
For sure.
And I can't vibe with that. There's too many, what's it called, perspectives.
Yeah, for sure.
Too much shit to take into consideration to go on a witch hunt like that.
Yeah, it's always weird when you see like if you're like aware of the like social environment that you're a part of, and you start seeing where people will lay in like little comments here and there talking shit about someone or something like that, and you can see it slowly becoming like, where that person, everyone starts hating up a specific person or something.
Yes.
And if ever that person leaves, then they find the next enemy. Who's the next person we have to have issues with and blame? And it's this interesting, like, what is this that there's humans always have to find an enemy within their group to hate on?
Yeah. Sometimes the people don't even do anything that absurd, Like a lot of the times people were just like living their lives. Now, there were people that totally got smoked from that community that deserved it, like
stealing shit or something like that.
Yeah, beating your girlfriend.
Like
rape allegations, stuff like that, that are very serious. And
for sure,
in that sense, I could be like, okay, you don't make us feel safe.
Right.
So you need to like remove yourself. And if you don't, like, everyone else is we're going to find a way to get you removed.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But like, again, serious stuff like that, it is so delicate situation to handle. I removed myself because I was like, I'm not going to wait around until I'm in the hot seat, like.
For sure. Wow, that sounds fun.
Yeah. I don't like choosing sides. I don't like being in drama. I like building a nest and painting in my bed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But whatever. So does your sister still live in this area?
Yeah, me and her live together in Oakland.
Awesome.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
3 massive cats that kind of run everything. Yeah.
I have a cat right now. She's not massive.
Do you have a kitten?
She's kind of a kitten. She's like right in that awkward stage.
In this house right now.
I mean, she's like
amazing.
She's like pretty big now, I feel like. I think she's like 7 months, so she's not tiny anymore.
Yeah, she's like that weird awkward stage where her legs grew and she didn't.
She grew. She will like eat all of her food, eat my dog's food.
Oh my God.
My dog, he doesn't eat that much. He never finishes his meals, so he leaves it, and she will like clean the bowl and then go out and like kill a bird and eat it, and then find like garbage people left on the floor and eat that. And like, I'm like, God damn it.
She's going to be huge. She's going to be like a tomcat.
But she's a killer. That's the only good thing about her. Is like, oh, you could see in her brain she's like always trying to kill something.
Death. Like a little death beam.
Cats are brutal.
Yeah. My favorite name for their claws are murder mittens. I was like, oh my God. It's so true. Because like anything that they see that they're even curious about, they're like, I need to kill that.
Yeah. When she was a little kitten, she was like killing spiders and stuff like that. Like a little tiny thing. And you're like, you're murdering already. And you're 3 months old. How is that? Me at 3 months is like, useless. It's literally a burden on everyone.
And humans when they're that small, they just look like little maggots. They're just like these little Michelin men looking.
So useless. Gosh. So I don't get it, but that's cool. So you're a cat person.
By force.
What do you mean?
Well, I think that my cats have like some mind control. Oh, this is something that I realized that I have. It's called cute aggression.
Cute aggression?
Cute aggression. It's when you see something that's cute and you make like a face, or like you have to, like you feel like you want to squeeze it till it pops.
Oh, yeah.
You want to bite it.
Yeah, like throw it against a wall.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's funny because like one of my cats, his name is Alien. His name coming out of the shelter was Persistent. Like that should have been a big enough red flag. Weird name.
Yeah.
Totally accurate. He like doesn't stop wanting to play, so he'll like follow me around because I'll always play with him. He's so much fun. But I pick him up and I throw him in the air onto the couch and like see how high I can get him, and he runs back for more.
That's awesome.
Totally throw him.
That's cool. It almost sounds like a dog in a weird way.
Yeah, he's very strange like that for sure.
Yeah, one of my friends has a cat like that too. His favorite thing for you to do to him is spin him around, like just get him, and then like just like toss him across the floor, like a wood floor like this, just
slide him
slide him down, and he'll come right back to you and want you to do it again.
It's so weird.
Alien loves my hamper when it's empty. Like if there's anything in it, he won't go in it, but when it's empty, it's like his UFO, and so I'll pick it up and I actually swing it around, and he loves it, dude. I don't know why. He loves bags. He loves being swung around and thrown. But
I've had a cat that absolutely hated that.
Yeah.
And we were horrible children, so
you're like,
you can guess what we did.
I don't know if he actually loves it, but he keeps coming back for more. So
that's cool.
He hasn't told me in any other way that he doesn't.
But we should probably bring this back to art.
Oh yeah, where's art? I did draw Alien on here on my Instagram. Yeah,
we'll check it out for sure. You're similar to me in that we both seem like we're addicted to our sketchbooks.
Oh, totally.
Unlike Sergio, who's not committed at all to his sketchbook.
No, he's like,
I cheat on it all the time.
Yeah. Sketchbook's like, where you been all night?
Hello, are you coming home?
Yeah. You used to touch me.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we looked through your sketchbook that you're working on right now, which was, for me, it's like one of my favorite things is always looking through sketchbooks. And,
same.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. There is something with sketchbooks, for me at least, where knowing that there's no like preciousness to it, and that I'm just doing it kind of because I enjoy it. Like that purity of being a creator for enjoyment's sake, not for monetary reasons. So it allows me to kind of play around more. And I always feel like my sketches, to me, are my favorite things I create most of the time. Like I'll do a painting every once in a while that I'm happy about, but the majority of them I'm dissatisfied with. But my drawings, even if they're a little shittier than my paintings, I'm also scrutinizing them way harsher.
Absolutely.
But my drawings, it's like, oh, that was kind of good. And it like is that like, you know, that reward system that us artists feed off of.
Totally. And I feel like I could get something, bring it from start to finish faster in a sketchbook. And sometimes that's all I need. Like I work manual labor.
Right.
So when I get home, I don't have a lot of time.
For sure.
I'm really bad when it comes to paintings because I want it to be done. Like I see it in my head. And then when it is done, there's so much time that went in between that it looks totally different. And I was like, well, you know, why would I use that color palette? Like, I wasn't even thinking. And it just gets separated.
I don't know if we can find your cat, by the way.
Oh, it was up.
Oh, we skipped it already?
Yeah, he's the one with the control collar. That one.
Oh.
That's Alien. All like crazed looking. Looks like he's receiving messages from above.
Nice. Yeah, one cool thing I really like about your art and specifically is like, it seems like this, for me, it's like this perfect amount of like what seems to be what you're into in a weird way, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I can pick out like little things, like for sure there's like this tattoo culture imagery that seems to be a big part of it. Folk art seems to be like a big part of it. Like Asian, like folk art especially. And
absolutely.
Even like modern day, like Asian art kind of seems to I don't know if that is or not, like Japan or anime or whatever seems to have like a little hint in there.
Totally. I started drawing anime first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was drawing, I was doing figure drawing when I was 15, but that's also when I got into like Inuyasha. Everyone out there, don't judge me. Or no, whatever, judge me. I loved Inuyasha. And then I found like Cowboy Bebop and Akira. Right. And it launched off from there. And I found like, even in high school and stuff, I never really felt like I found my people, you know? Like I had individual best friends and stuff, but I never found like an art community.
Tribe thingy.
Yeah, I still, you know, I'm searching for that. And I don't know where it is. I like having individual friends that are all totally different.
Right, for sure.
But I was always jealous of the people that like all the art kids hung out and I didn't hang out and they weren't really nice to me. So I was like, screw you guys, I'm going to go home and watch anime because I'm super cool and make you like me that way.
That's cool. I wonder if anime, because like a lot of the guests we've had on, you know, what got them into art seems to be like a reoccurring thing of comics and comic books. And I feel like comic books aren't so mainstream, at least like the actual, like, you know, like the movies and everything are a thing, but not like illustrations. And I wonder if anime kind of, because I've noticed that a lot with younger kids that'll like say something on social media is like they'll always have kind of this anime connection nowadays, and I'm like, I wonder if that's the new comic book.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it grew in popularity definitely through Pokemon, like through our generation. I feel like we are now seeing more comic book movies because we're the old people now.
Right.
Sure.
We make the rules. And we want more comic book movies. We want a really cool CGI.
For sure.
And people want anime.
Yeah.
Like I was going to Comic-Con, I forgot my first year, but it was significantly smaller in New York, Comic-Con New York. And then when I went the last time, like I was swimming in a sea of BO and weeaboo cat ears, you know, like it was so cool that there's that much attention on something that I think is really positive.
For sure.
Anime always has like this underlying message in almost every episode, obviously depending on the anime.
Yeah.
But I feel like when it comes down to emotions, it helps kids figure them out.
For sure.
Like, it's okay to feel this weird or like you're jealous because senpai is noticing somebody else.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel those feelings.
Yeah. My wife, she's like in love with Sailor Moon. It's like her one of her huge obsessions. And she kind of dived into the actual storyline, and there's like it's like the American version, and then she was like, oh yeah, like in this version, this I don't know, Jupiter or some shit. I don't know, whatever one she's talking about is like transgender or something. And like she lived with this lady, which was like her girlfriend or something like that. And
yeah,
it's like, that's nuts, because it's like 90s.
Totally.
And they're talking about random stuff like that. Like, I don't, like, that's so crazy to think about.
It's crazy because people did not talk about it.
Right.
And then it's on this children, like, this girl's animation. Well, I guess I shouldn't gender it, but, a lot of people were inspired by Sailor Moon.
For sure.
So many people. Because that, Sailor Moon herself is like such an emotional, crazy person.
Yeah.
But a lot of her feelings are justified.
Right.
And she overcomes them too. I think is important for kids to see is that like those feelings can be overcome.
For sure.
There could be good outcomes. You could be the hero in your own movie if you want to be.
Yeah, and still be a mess.
Movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus on top of that, if you go back and watch like cartoons, they're so shitty, and then Sailor Moon just was so far above the competition.
Yeah, timeless.
Graphic wise, it's like yeah.
Have you ever looked into the Akira, like how they made Akira, all those cells?
I mean, no.
I just assume everyone's into what I'm into.
I mean, I've watched Akira, but I've never like looked into. I know it took forever to make, right?
Took forever. All those like backgrounds were hand painted, but the way that they moved them and layered them is really interesting. If you could watch a documentary on that.
Is there a documentary on it?
I believe so.
Okay.
I forgot what it's called though.
Okay. I think it's called Akira.
The documentary.
Background story.
The background's all about them. Get them here. But the colors, the color palettes in Akira also inspired a lot of like the harsh reds that I like to use to move your eye around. Akira was the biggest influence when it comes to my art, and it's very underlying. And it was mostly the colors that I was so enamored by.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched Akira in so long.
Have you ever read it?
No, I don't really read things.
It's barely
Do they
reading.
audiobook it?
Yeah. It's 6 volumes or 6 volumes of mostly action. There's like very little words, but it's like explosion. Akira is not
like
just
a book
like
I can read.
Totally. And I got through it so fast because I worked at a comic book store. I just picked it up because I thought it'd be interesting. And then I realized that it is the actual story of Akira because it goes so much further than just finding like a grouping of organs inside a big, dome. Akira is actually a little boy. And he reigns over Tokyo for like a certain amount of time. And Tetsuo is like his right-hand man and is like all crazed and deranged. So it's super worth watching. Or I'm sorry, reading.
I wish I could just make it into a full thing where I could just watch it.
Cell by cell.
It's like I like the one anime thing that I really got into was that show Berserk. I don't know if you ever watched it.
I haven't watched that one. I heard good things.
It's really intense and it ends in a weird moment in the show. It just like ends and you're like, you get in there. Like that's not allowed. And it drives you nuts. But there's books that carry on the story. And I have never read those books.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to say about that.
It's totally worth it because they're now going the opposite way. Wolf's Rain was another anime that I really, really loved. And if anyone out there loves anime and hasn't seen that one, totally worth it. It's tearjerker. You're going to cry. But when I read the manga, I thought that it would have the same effect, like where I would go into the story more. It was 2 volumes. And the way it ended was such bullshit. I was angry. I like kept looking around. I was like, that is not the end. That is not the end. And it literally said, the end.
Dirty bastards.
What the hell?
What is your anime suggestion of the day?
Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, yeah. If you got like another 13 years to catch up,
exactly.
go for it.
Nice. So your artwork is, well, a lot of people say it's very lighthearted and like if people could just think about like flowers and butterflies and rainbows and lollipops.
That's my art.
That's your art.
It's pink and blue.
Yeah.
Put it in your baby's room.
Yeah, light blue.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, so you do have like a pretty, you do play around with like dark imagery, but there's also like this like funniness and lightness to it as well. Like, you're not trying, like, some things go dark and some things kind of go to a certain point and then kind of have like little funny moments or whatever in them.
I noticed that everything is kind of smiling.
Yeah.
Even like the really angry things are still smiling, which is really unnerving to me because what is happening in my head?
Yeah, I don't know if that's creepy or not. Now that you've pointed that out.
Yeah, it was like a theme that I've noticed not very long ago. I was like, the go-to things that I draw that I have the most fun drawing are smiling menacingly, like they're making eye contact and they're holding a knife,
like a pug clown.
Yeah, that guy was creepy as hell. Don't know where he came from.
Smiling, but it doesn't look friendly.
No.
So how do you go about in that kind of process? Do you have like references of other like folk art or something that inspires you, or do you just kind of go off the cuff, or is there a combination? Or
there's a combination. Mostly I'm going off the cuff because like I used to be solely like drawing off of reference. I thought anything else was like balderdash. And then
I don't know what that means. Is it like some diss?
It's just like a bunch of jumbled, like, I don't know. I got it from a board game called Balderdash. I just really like that word.
I like how you slipped it in there like it was normal, and we almost went over without being like, oh yeah, Balderdash. Yeah,
I think it means just like absurd.
Okay.
Like
is it an actual word?
It's an actual word.
Oh, you knew what that word meant?
Yeah, I wasn't the one that pointed out being weird.
Yeah, a lot of it is coming from my head now, but obviously, like, the nurse is old school tattoo imagery.
Right.
The horse is from, it's from a statue. It's like the biggest horse statue. Oh man, I'm trying to remember. It's like a really big artist from the Renaissance that made it. And he ended up not finishing it. Other artists had to bring it to completion because of some war. That's how
was it a wooden horse
information.
I think I've heard of this. The wooden horse that they put into the castle, but guess what, everyone? There's people inside.
No. This is a big bronze horse. I keep wanting to say Rembrandt. It is not Rembrandt. I think it might be a Leonardo da Vinci.
I've heard of that guy before.
Yeah, he's weird. He thought he could create things that like could fly.
I heard this crazy story about that, about like the helicopter thing.
Did it work?
Is that he was inventing those things because his main job, I guess, was to like create sets and things for plays. And that those things weren't like real helicopters. They were more like prop things for their plays. And there's like this wrong narrative about it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never knew that.
Nuts. I've never heard that.
Yeah, that's my little art history moment from Josh Lawyer. I don't know if...
Yes.
But yeah. All right, back to the story. So horse.
Yeah, horse. It's a big bronze statue, and I thought that the expression on it was so intense. And it is. Like, seeing a horse, like, pulling back in, like, pain is... Right. Horses are terrifying.
Yeah.
And they're like, straight out of a horror movie.
Yeah. And when they get terrified, they hold it all in their face while their legs are kicking the shit out of whatever they're terrified of.
I'm trying to think of what you could call like a murder hoof. Murder stompers. Yeah. Seeing videos online. Hoof blade. Coming straight at your forehead. Yeah, I worked with horses for a little bit, and there was a Clydesdale that they brought to the barn that did not give a fuck. He knew how big he was, and they had me bringing him out to pasture one day, and I was like 12, and brand new horse, I don't know him. I was walking with him, and then I noticed that he's just like kind of, rearing up a little bit, terrifying. And I looked back and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I put my hands up to whoa, whoa, whoa him. And then he did not like it and started freaking out. So I was like, fuck this. I turned my head. I didn't look at him freaking out. And I just started like running to the pasture and like threw him in there. I was just like, fuck. Never want to see you again.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they're scary up close.
For sure. I mean, I just saw a horse not that long ago where I was petting it, and I was like, still terrified of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this thing is so big,
Big hoof
and
dog.
could kill me if it wanted to.
Yeah, without even thinking about
Exactly.
it. Do they think? Who knows?
And I don't know him. It's not like we're buddies.
I don't know you.
Yeah.
That's my person.
You don't know me. You don't even know me.
Man, they got such big personalities too that like if they want to hurt you, they will. I don't know
For sure.
what spooked him. Like there was nothing happening when I was walking him. He got spooked and was trying to stomp me out.
Probably drama in his where he lives he lived in a church, and there was probably drama going on.
He was like,
He's going through it.
fucking Gatlin looked at me weird, and he's in the stall next to me.
Yeah, not cleaning her dishes.
Yeah.
Nice. I mean, that's cool though. That it's like because for some reason that horse looks familiar in a weird way. But I can't put my finger on it. I mean, that's kind of how your art is in general. Like, it's almost like it looks kind of familiar, but it's like it's like you put like that. That's the you being yourself, I guess, in the art. Like the style that's come naturally to you.
I think it's like everything that's floating around in my head from stuff that I've absorbed through the day. Looking on the internet, like, I don't know, watching Akira over and over and over again.
For sure.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that you've been doing is you've been collaborating with another artist.
Yes. She's quite a tough lady.
You've been doing like, so you've been like designing your illustrations, and then your mom's been turning them into like embroidered fabrics.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, for me, it's like the combination of the two is so awesome.
It is. It's so pure and wholesome.
Yeah. And the imagery is so dark. So it works out so well where it's like this thing that's usually used for like flowers and butterflies and lollipops and rainbows is now used for like skeleton cats and terrified horses and and like
funny thing about the horse embroidery. I called my mom on her cell phone. My dad picks up and I was like, what's up, Dad? Like talking to my dad. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll go get Mom. She's working on the horse right now. And I was like, what? I didn't know. And he was like, oh, she's working on the horse. And I hear her in the background, she didn't know that. Like, my parents both have very thick Bronx accents, by the way. So my mom's like shrill. Love her to death.
One thing it kind of reminded me of, I mean, it's very different, but I don't know if you're familiar with the artist Haircut. It's like, it's this, I think they're husband and wife duo. They do this artwork kind of, she sets up the illustration, and he has this really, I think there's a U. No, A.
Do they do embroidery stuff?
So, but the thing is, she does like the illustration part, and then he comes in and does like the skin tones and super high realistic detail to it. And the combination of it like ends up making it like it's like a perfect combination, because she has such a stylized like look to her stuff, and he has the technique to make it more lifelike.
he like executes the finishing touches.
Yeah.
It's so cool because it looks like she's drawing the bare bones and then he's actually like putting the skin on.
Right, exactly. So it's this cool combination. And that kind of reminded me of what you and your mom were doing, because it's like you have this illustration like skill, and she has this other skill. And
that
then
the internet loves way more, I might add. 'Cause
but that's kind of what it reminded me with them, is like separate, they're not as cool, or something like.
Totally.
But then when you combine them, you're like, oh, like, I mean, the lady, her work I actually really like without it. His work, even though he has like this technique, is so much stiffer and so much more like, I don't know.
Painterly.
Yeah, and it's just not as good. Like it loses some of the magic. So it's kind of like they have to do it together. I mean, except for she doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
She can kind of do her own thing, but he kind of is like just changes
He's
it
meeting
just
her.
yeah.
Yeah, there are, my friend Daria said one time that I love and hold very dear. She says that our art holds hands. When you find people whose art holds hands with your art, it's really like, it's quite special. And everyone has something different to bring to the table. And I find that when people are successful, they marry two things. Even like Sergio marrying floral design with like a beautiful figure. Those things hold hands so eloquently. Eloquently. I don't know words. Elegant.
Elegantly.
That's totally what it was. Those two words together.
It's an ultra word. They were holding hands.
Those words hold hands.
There we go. See, I'm doing it actively.
Exactly.
But yeah, their art totally held hands.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel like with you and your mom doing this thing.
Totally.
And it's so cool because the other thing too is like, I think when you find out your mom is behind the embroidery, it's kind of like this cool thing where you're like, oh, it's at least for me, like I play the narrative back in my head of what I think how that goes down, of like, oh, maybe I could try to do this or something. And then it like happens and you're like, oh, that looks kind of cool. And there's no like incentive to be like, hey, I had this idea. I want to find an embroiderer to complete my idea so that I can then maybe make monetary gains off of this cool idea. It seems like from learning about it that you can kind of fill in the narrative, and it seems like it's from like just an authentic, organic kind of like it happened and it looked cool, so let's keep trying this out.
Totally. It was her idea.
Oh, that's awesome.
She started embroidering again after probably like 15 years of not doing it. And she picked it up after retiring. My parents are living in North Carolina too, so it's like we're across the world. We're not like actually sitting down together and like making choices. I'm mostly giving her all the freedom. I'm like, make it cool. I know you will. But she approached me last May and was like, I saw her doing all these embroideries and she was tired of it's funny because it's full circle. She was tired of all of these embroidery patterns that were just flowers and butterflies. And so she found this transfer paper that you just kind of iron onto. You could print out the image and then you iron it onto the canvas itself, and then you just sew over it and it dissolves in water. So she found that and she's like, oh, I could do this with Gan's art. It's not my real name, but I almost gave it away.
Secret's out.
Yeah. I could do it with her art.
We were supposed to be shocked. God, that is loud.
I know. I could turn this down. It goes off all the way.
Yeah, so she approached me, and I think, she wanted me to choose which one it was. The first one I chose, because I'm like such a nice daughter, I was like, do this death piece. And she did the Grim Reaper tarot death. much because I thought that'd be the coolest.
Yeah.
And it is. Like, that's the one. That was the first one, and that's the one that I'm keeping. Like, that's not for sale.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah,
right?
there she is.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it looks so awesome.
Yeah, that painting itself, I was just reminded, I had her embroider that also because I gave that to a very dear friend, Andrew, because he told me he had a very interesting relationship with death. And that piece I loved so much, but I've had it in my drawer for 2-3 years. I saw that he had a beautiful art collection, and I was like, would you be interested in having this? He helped me through very dark times, and I wanted to give him something,
Yeah, that's cool.
So I wanted her to embroider that image because I no longer had it, but I still love it very dearly. It's still one of my favorites.
So do you think you guys would ever do an art show where it's you two? Oh, that would be awesome.
I hope so. That was the idea behind the flash sheet that she did, the big embroidery with the ram skull. That one was supposed to be in a gallery, but that show did not go through.
That sucks.
Yeah, that one. That one's 11 by 17.
I didn't even realize this was embroidery.
Yeah. That one I think got past the radar, but it is so intense. I wish I brought that up for you guys.
So much work.
I'll bring it up next time we hang out at the bar or some shit.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Yeah. It's so intense. And she's using special stitches in the feathers and stuff to give them more of a texture and make them look more rounded over. Yeah, you can't see it in this picture. If you zoom in on those feathers, which you might be able to do, it's almost like a braided stitch.
I didn't even realize there was a whole art in choosing the different yarns and strings and all that too.
Hell, man, me neither.
Sergio, you have so much to learn.
They have metallic threads. And, yeah, she's the one that she'll tell me I found this metallic gray and I was going to use it for the bones in this skeleton. And I was like, hell yeah, Mom, I don't know. Go on with your bad self. It's pretty awesome.
That's cool though, that she's hyped on it too.
Oh, she's so hyped on it. She's already started 3 more.
That's great.
I think she made this her new job, which is so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I told her that she needs to have her own Instagram so she could post this stuff, and she doesn't want to make one. She just wants me to post it on mine. And I was telling you guys before, my friends started making fun of me because everyone likes my mom's art more than mine art. I think it's so precious, dude. It's the best.
I mean, I still think it's I do picture haircut. There is this, you guys are one. You guys have become. I mean, you guys are obviously 2 different people and doing 2 different things. But when you guys you guys need to figure out some name for the 2 of you as
Mom Dalf. Mom Dalf. We were calling it Mom Dalf, or what was the other one? I think Mom Dalf was that's the winner because it's really funny. But she hasn't, I want her to embroider it, sign it in there, and she hasn't done that yet.
Mom Dalf.
Mom Dalf.
You just have to do it in your image when you send it to her. So
yeah.
When she irons it on, there's no way of
Totally.
It's well, it's on there.
Yeah, you gotta put it in there.
I guess she could wash it off.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Hopefully she doesn't hear
she
this.
She has her ways. Yeah, I was just talking to her on the way over here too, because I was I'm gonna tell everybody all your secrets. No, she loves it. I think she's been getting her other friends into it.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. So are they gonna think do they think it's weird at all that what she's embroidering? Are they
they love it.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, all of her friends, the community she lives in, it's all of her. They live in a condo. My parents, and all of the people around them are people that I also grew up with, their parents.
Oh, really?
So they have their own little community. They've known me since I was a baby. So when they see my mom embroidering my work, they think it's hilarious because they're Oh my God. Well, my name is Jessica. Hi, guys. They're
Hey,
like,
Jessica. Bye, Jessica. Sorry, guys.
Weird.
Jessica just jumped on the mic really quick.
Who was she?
I don't know.
Yeah, they think it's funny because they know I've always been into like this dark imagery, but I'm a very pleasant person, I promise. So they think it's funny that I make weird, creepy shit, and they're stoked.
That's cool. Wait, so they all kind of like moved to
together.
Really?
Yeah, dude. I grew up in like a utopian kind of childhood. Like,
how many drum circles were there?
None.
Okay.
None. We had, so all of the people that lived in our neighborhood was a new development. So all the parents were young with young kids.
Uh-huh.
But it was a pretty big development, but it was also like secure and tight knit. So everyone grew up together. There were so many different groups of like age groups. And there was a group of kids for each age group, and we all hung out. The older kids were super mean because when, they knew the neighbors, like the younger kids were watching scary movies, they would like creep on our decks and like bang on our doors. Yeah. We like grew up in a big community, and now
that's cool.
The parents are trying to stay together because they've
awesome.
been friends for 30 years at this point.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And the older you get, the harder it is to like find friends.
Totally.
For sure. That's cool if everyone's down to move.
And they all seem to be like attracting other like people the same age that want friends, or they're lonely, like they lost their spouse too early. So it's another cool community. I don't know if they're doing drum circles, but I do get drunk phone calls. Like they're partying pretty damn hard. Voicemails too.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, like they're partying
like,
on
Mom,
the
I gotta
beach.
go to work.
Yeah, it's like 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I get a voicemail. It's like my mom's cousin that's like, your mom's so drunk right now. And my mom in the background's like, no, I'm not. It's hilarious.
That's cool.
I love it.
So were you so it's just you and your sister, siblings wise?
We have a middle sister too.
Okay.
Yeah, and she lives with my parents over in North Carolina.
Oh, nice. So your older sister's kind of creative, right?
Yeah. Now she's an industrial designer, so she was doing like packaging design and like corporate. I don't know if it's it is corporate art. Sorry, Steph. It's corporate as
Whole
shit.
Foods is corporate.
Yeah. She was working for Method Soaps. The last thing that she did, she was like designing the pumps for the soap bottles.
Okay.
So her stuff is far more technical. And now she like quit that job and she's doing her own, not hardware. Oh my God, dishware, like mugs and coffee pour over things, all in porcelain that she dyes by herself. Like it's beautiful work. All of our dishes are gorgeous now. That's awesome. That's our like living with her. 'Cause her shit's pretty cool.
And she's just kind of doing this independently?
Yeah, she has been she's been going to like all of those shows that they have, like, I don't know, in Temescal in Oakland and stuff, like Temescal Alley. It's like this bougie shopping area.
Okay.
You walk through, you get like a $5 cappuccino.
Right. I mean, I've never been there, but I know exactly. I can picture
kind of
that
stuff.
place exactly.
Crafts fairs. That's what it is. She was going to do a lot of that, and now she just, saw, what's it called? Sealed the deal with this coffee shop, and she's going to be making like 1,000 pieces for them.
Nice.
Because they have a coffee shop in LA, and they have one up here. So she's doing like big work with her ceramics, and I'm super proud of her.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm like, thank you for, jumping out of the corporate world and then like showing our parents that we're all kind of suffering down here. Because, I don't make that much, I don't make really any money off of my illustrations. People want the embroideries. They want my mom's work.
Yeah, I mean,
is there a way to make that into product in some way? Like
the embroideries?
Yeah. I guess you'd have to find some company to automate it for you somehow.
Totally.
I mean, it kind of sounds though like the attention your mom puts into it is probably also very, like, the fact that she's like doing things so the feathers have this certain effect.
Yeah,
Like
that stuff you can't really replicate with them. Or maybe you can. I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's hard because a lot of the embroidery companies that my friends have used in the past to make patches, a lot of them are like in China or, you know, like just another country. And there's a big language barrier.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though they do work with the United States, doesn't mean that they have to speak English. There's a lot of people in the United States that speak Chinese.
For sure.
Right.
So one of my friends, Doyle, was showing me the process that he goes through with making embroidery. And he, like, you know, pulls out the Pantone booklet and, like, he will choose every little color. And his stuff is way more involved than what we have here. Because essentially, like, in the tattoo world, you want to make something as simple as possible.
Right.
But there's a lot that goes into explaining what you want, so there's no surprises when you get these final products from other countries.
For sure. Yeah, my wife's done some stuff like that, and there's definitely a huge language barrier. It's so kind of cute in a weird way.
Totally.
Because they're very nice, but it's like broken English, but they're trying. And there's definitely this huge communication barrier, and just like, it's weird. It's a weird, because you're literally talking to one person who's going to make all of them.
Right.
Because that's kind of what they do. They're like, I do buttons, and I do buttons for, you can do up to 20,000. It's like, like, I don't even understand what's going on here.
Me neither. Well, that's why I haven't done those the factory made embroideries. Yeah, and I want to, because there's a lot of people that have been asking about prices, and I have to be honest, like, a lot of this stuff, when I receive it in the mail, it is like a family heirloom that I'm holding. I'm like, this is my mom's work.
Right.
So I'm not going to let it go for just anything.
Right.
And the one piece that I did sell, actually, my friend Doyle is the one who bought it, without any questions. And that's because he knows exactly what goes into making this kind of stuff, especially by hand. Like, I keep telling her to clock her hours so we know how many hours this takes.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I forgot. I'm like, Mom, you can't forget. Like, we need to know for science.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see that, like, in a fine art gallery and going for a ton of money.
Oh,
for sure. Yeah.
It's all just like, I mean, that's like a whole nother, business. Just being able to market it a certain way, you can, like, people would love it, especially even just the story alone of, like, I create this dark art, my mom embroiders it by hand. It's like all of that is just great.
Totally.
People love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, people love wholesome shit because you don't hear a lot of it anymore.
Exactly.
Like, a lot of the news nowadays is super dark.
For sure.
People are attacking each other, like, either mentally, verbally, physically. Like, it's all really vicious out there.
For sure.
But I think there's a lot of really good things that are happening that,
I think so.
People don't people don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Naturally, people gravitate towards, like, what is the one, like, fucked up thing that happened to, like, it happens to me. I sit in traffic all the time and I get pissed at people all the time. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I, like, got to sit here and talk to my mom on the phone for, like, 30 minutes while I sat in traffic. And, get to touch base with some of my East Coast friends when I sit in traffic. I get to listen to podcasts, There's a lot of good shit, but I focus on, like, that motherfucker cut me up. And, I flip people off all the time, which I don't think is a West Coast thing.
I do it all the time.
You do? Okay, good.
Yeah,
my wife. I'll do it, like, if my wife is driving, I'll roll my window down and be like, fuck you.
Yeah,
I'll literally
totally.
If they're windows, then I'm like, thank God I get to yell at them too. It's great.
I see you.
Called giant man privilege.
Yeah, I had this girl, she wasn't, like, letting people merge in the toll area going over the Bay Bridge. And so I, like, cut in front of her. She's, like, just not letting anyone. And so I was like, screw this. I'm going to be the bigger asshole. I went around, I cut into her, and I just, like, looked over, and she was taking off her earrings. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, where are you gonna run? Like, there's cops there. There's cops there. You can beat my ass right now. So I started laughing hysterically because my coworker Mikey was in the car with me too, and he's a crazy motherfucker. I was like, dude, this girl has no clue if she steps out of that car. The type of people she'd be dealing with. Yeah.
But I love that. Like, she was taking off her fucking earrings.
Taking off her earrings.
It was perfect.
Yeah, I was like, oh man. And they were like giant hoops too. So I was like, this girl is going to fuck me up. I can't fight.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
But it settled itself out. You guys became best friends? Or?
Well, me and my friend Mikey were like laughing hysterically. So I think that she realized that she's going to be beating up a bunch of crazy people that are going to be like laughing the whole way. It's just ridiculous, you know?
For sure.
But
plus, most people don't want to fight.
No.
They just want to push it right to that edge.
That limit. She should just bump my bumper because, like,
that's true.
Whatever. I don't give a shit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but your work, we were talking about it earlier, but the perfect segue.
I don't like just running this straight off the rails. Yeah. Me.
That's literally how we always do it. But I like some of your work, you do like watercolors, right? Which I like. I'm really into. Like, there was one where there was like a wounded animal or something. I don't know if the title was what it said, but it said something about like winters for licking your wounds or something like that.
Oh, is it the creepy wolf girl? That one?
Let's see if I could find it.
Winters for licking your... I know I wrote that, but I don't remember why.
Yeah, I do that all the time where I write stuff and in the moment it's perfect. Yeah. And then someone's like, why did you do that? And I'm like, I don't remember. There was a reason, but I don't know. I don't know how to keep track of all that stuff. And I'm not going to stop. I think it was this one.
Oh, yeah. That one was actually for a good friend of mine that I worked with out in heavy equipment for Burning Man. She was just telling me that she wanted eyeball wolf. That's what she called it. I was like, yes, I know exactly what you're saying.
Okay, say no more.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I got you.
But yeah, I don't know. I like this one a lot. It has that like that Japanese folk art kind of aesthetic to it that I like so much. You know, and with like the palette and just how you're doing certain things and the stylized like arrows and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Arrows are very fun to draw. I've noticed you like them too.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with them.
Sticks everywhere in my sketchbook.
Yeah, they're to me it's like one of the simplest things you can do to like get a lot of bang for your buck.
Totally. You could draw the eye anywhere. You know, like manipulate all the viewers. Like, I want your eye to go here, bang, there, bang. It's really cool directional stuff to use.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, usually it's like it's just usually it's symbolic for like some form of like past pain the figure has gone through. You know, it's like, this is just like, I don't know if I've ever talked. Sergio might know more than me. I ramble so much. I'm like, I might have said this before, but it's like, I always thought it was cool that you could like show past pain in such a simple way, and either the person is still affected by it, or it seems like it's not bothering them at all, and that like to me seems so interesting and so simple of like a thing.
Yeah, you're like, I carry this now.
I can do an arrow in like 5 seconds, and then it's like cool. Like I didn't have to, you know, and I could put the thought of like, you know, why that's there, but the execution is so easy. So just like, it's like, nice, done. It's great.
Satisfying. And there is something that I really like to like do in most of my illustrations. I like having 3 elements interacting. And if I'm at a loss for a third element, can't go wrong with arrows. So I just throw that, or, you know, bells I use a lot, flowers, smoke. There's a lot of little things that you could add in there just to, you know, give it more of a narrative.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Sergio's super into narrative. Tell us about narrative, Sergio.
Tell us.
The thing about stories is take you into places in your mind that you've never thought of before.
And they don't have to make sense.
What is going
Neither
on?
does anything I just said.
Oh, yeah, so we do have a piece we're going to talk about specifically, although we've talked about a bunch of pieces, but there's a piece in your sketchbook right now. It's called Maid.
It's time to be critiqued by waiting to dry.
Ouch.
I've been wanting to use that for such a long time.
Do your worst. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to do we're horrible. It's like...
They're so not critiques at all.
Yeah, we're usually like, first of all, it's awesome.
Love that horse.
So this is like a piece, we were looking through your sketchbook earlier, and this piece for sure stood out because it's like you cut out pieces of your sketch, like pages out of your sketchbook to tape to this page to make it like some big fold out, almost like a magazine. Like,
yeah.
I forget what those things are called.
Like
Fold
there
out
should
thingy.
be a little cologne attached to it, and you just like peel it open and smell it. But it's a
That
plague.
would be awesome.
It's actually the bubonic plague.
My throat's closing up.
Yes, I'm a pretty poor planner. But a lot of my process is just like start something cool and then be like, oh, there's this other cool thing I could add.
Right.
Like it started with the plague mask lady.
Okay. Which is like some lady is sitting on a horse.
Yeah, and she is a nun somehow. Yeah, like she
I
has
see
a
that.
cross around her neck.
Right, and kind of like
She's
the uniform.
holding a scythe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what do nuns hold scythes? Or?
Only the really mean ones. Some use rulers, some chop off your head.
Yeah.
And she's also holding a crystal ball. And in there, like, I'm kind of sad that, like, it's so small on Instagram. Like, Instagram's such a limited format.
For sure.
Because in the crystal ball, you have this, like, little laughing cloud that is a skull, and that's supposed to represent the actual plague. Like, she could just hurl that fucking bitch into your home and the crystal ball would break and then you have the plague.
Oh, yeah.
But I started with that figure. I think that I had reference for the hands, like the top portion of the figure. And then I just kept expanding on it. And I was like, well, they should be on a horse. But you don't have to necessarily see the horse. But actually, you should see the horse. And then that was the first add-on.
So you're like, let me tape this piece of paper on.
Taped it there, put in the horse's face. And then I realized I hate cutting. I feel like cutting the figure off at the ankle is like a weird dehumanizing thing. I don't know why. Same with the wrist. Like if the wrist goes off the page, I'm like, this looks creepy. I can't explain it. Yeah. So, cut off that second slice, added in that those feet that are coming off of the horse. And then
She's sitting side posed.
And then I had this weird awkward space that I had to fill, which was the last piece, and that's the horse's
Hoof
foot.
blade.
Hoof blade, murder stompers.
Yeah.
And then the dog was just an afterthought. I thought like black dogs have a weird stigma around them, just like black cats, black animals in general. People think that they're bad luck.
Right.
So to further push that
Racism.
superstition, there we go. Yeah, that raises superstition. I put that hound in there, escorting her to her destination, which is your home.
Well, not my home.
Straight to your home.
I have a no solicitor sign. So.
With your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want any.
Yeah, we're good.
We don't want your Girl Scout cookies. Yes, we do. Come in.
But, yeah, it's an awesome piece. I don't know.
One of my favorite little details is the virus kind of pattern that it has on the I don't know what you call it, cloak of some sort.
Yeah, I was looking. Oh, how did I find that reference? I really am into war horses lately and how people used to decorate them. And I think that kind of cloak pattern came from England, like cloaking your horses in that way, or like when people what is that?
Oh, joust.
Joust.
Right.
Yeah, they do that cloak, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
It almost looks like a ghost.
I remember when I was in my war horse stage.
They are so cool.
Such a common thing.
You know what? It actually stems from in college going to the Met. If you went, have you ever been to the Met in New York?
No.
Never been to New York.
Oh
Yeah, me
man,
neither.
I've tried to show my partner Lauren the Met.
I want to, yeah.
Oh, dude, it's like the perfect thing to do on a rainy day. And unfortunately, when we were going there, we had one day when I was visiting my family. We had one day in the city, and I was like, "I'm going to bring you to the Met because there are these armored horses there." They have these old medieval armored horses, and every time I would try to go draw them in college, I'd fuck it up somehow. And it drove me crazy that I could not draw these horses accurately. But they also had samurai armor horses as well. And
really?
A lot of that was like the cloaking. Yeah. Oh man, they have a great exhibit, and a lot of them are decorated horses too. Like they have the armor of the humans, but then they're sitting on the decorated horses, and I thought that was the fucking coolest.
If a samurai horse is like a really good warrior, does it kill itself?
Maybe it seppukus itself off the cliff.
That's awesome though. It's kind of interesting how modes of transportation seem to have an importance in your life. From super tall bikes to soldier horses.
Totally. I mean, I commute everywhere. I should decorate my car as my war horse. But I'm up here, obviously, in Santa Rosa. I work in San Francisco, live in Oakland, and then I also work at a really amazing tattoo shop. I work their counter at State of Grace.
Okay.
Who is world renowned. Like, man, the work that comes out of there is primarily traditional Japanese. You have Horitomo, you have Horitaka, and they are two amazing artists, Hori Fuji and then Colin Baker. Like, all of these artists, definitely check them out.
I think I follow Horitomo.
Tomo does the Mon Cats.
Yeah.
He is the coolest.
He's in this area?
He's in San Jose.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and to get an appointment with him, I don't do any of his appointments because it is so extensive. You have to write either handwritten or typed letter, and you have to physically send it to State of Grace, and then they put you on a wait list, which is 3 to 4 years up. You know,
what if I roll up on a samurai horse? Is it like bypass?
We might steal your horse and send you on your way. Yeah. So that's another huge inspiration, is being surrounded by immense talent that is so embedded in tradition and, respect and honor. And they are wildly supportive.
That's awesome.
My art and, being
cool.
friends. Me getting them coffee. They love that.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, so mode of transportation, like, I'm all over the place when it comes down to it. I wish I had a horse.
Yeah.
That'd be the cooler way to go.
And cost efficient, I think.
Yeah. My Subaru is not that fuel efficient. God damn it.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's an amazing piece. It's very dark. But I mean, it's executed like, it's always interesting when I see someone do, like, your style seems very developed, for, like, in my opinion. Like, you seem like you have kind of worked out these things. So it's interesting to see, where you go from like these, like, I don't know, monster things to like something like this where it's more representational and it's more like, having to do with looking at something and drawing it. It's kind of this cool thing where you go like, oh, and she still has, you didn't jump to like a different world to do it.
Yeah.
You're still in like your own kind of wheelhouse or what, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Style is always like the word people throw out, but yeah, it's cool to see that when you can kind of do this large spectrum of imagery and kind of still have the same, thumbprint in all of them.
Hell yeah. I don't see that stuff, so it's good to hear that it is all talking to itself. Because I am trying to keep my illustrative side. I do want to tell a narrative, but eventually I want it to be tattooable. I really would like to go down that path and be able to simplify something in the same style, but have it to be as visually compelling. I feel like a lot of the times in tattoo art, things end up looking the same.
For sure.
Everyone's cabbage rose ends up looking like everyone else's cabbage rose. And that's a good way to learn on how to simplify stuff. But I don't want to get caught in the same cycle of just trying to be the next Sailor Jerry, which he was here and he's passed. And it's time to expand off of his legacy. Let's keep pushing it forward. And so many amazing tattoo artists are. And it's a really intimidating pool to stare at and want to take on.
So have you dipped your toe into that a bit, or?
A little bit, yeah. I'm stepping in the right directions. But again, a tattoo world is steeped in such heavy tradition.
For sure.
It's a scary thing to step into if you're not stepping into it right.
Yeah. What's funny too is when you're young, you don't really give a fuck about that kind of stuff. You're just like, I'm going to do whatever, tattooing or whatever. And you jump into it.
Garage.
And then you have to get set straight by there is this shit. You have to learn on the job. But then the older you get, I feel like the more you kind of go into it, kind of like what you're doing, where you're trying to figure out how to set yourself up to be successful,
right?
Without having to go through all the
bullshit,
learn on the all the bullshit and all the drama and all the learn on the job shit and all the
and there's a lot of drama. I feel like a big part of the tattoo world is a lot of people talking shit, and I just I don't feel comfortable doing that.
For sure,
honestly, maybe with my closest friends, I'll show that side, but I think it's really ugly,
right?
And I don't see any constructive sides to that unless somebody's being an absolute asshole and they need to be set straight. Then but don't go around and bitch about it behind their back all the time. Maybe confront them. Some people aren't worth confronting too. It's oh man, that guy's 55, he's set in his ways.
For sure.
You don't have to be friends with him.
Right. Yeah. And tattoo culture also just it's a part of that it's been a part of this, whatever, the criminal aspect of living, and so it does have these alpha male types that are going to be, whatever.
Totally. And narcissism. I mean, I like my art. I would like to tattoo it.
Yeah. I grew up in graffiti culture, and it seems like they're intertwined in some ways, and they're also very similar in some ways.
Yeah. Underground culture.
Yeah.
They all hold hands. Talk to each other.
But it's it is what it is. People will fight and all that.
It's true. Yeah. I want to just kind of stay out of it. Most of the times.
I think that's the good
If move. I do have to step up, usually if I'm if I have to defend myself, I'll let the bullshit go and won't defend myself. If someone goes after my friends or someone I love, I'm a vicious, attack dog. I'm don't you dare cross my friend.
Right. Yeah, you take off your earrings.
Yeah, take off my earrings.
Yeah. You're you see these big ass hoops?
I need to just get hoops to put them on to take them off.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me 1 second.
Here, see these? They're going on and off.
Yeah. Or just
my hat. I'm taking my hat off.
Yeah. That's cool. So you've also, the way we met you, the way I met you. I don't know what
you just got critiqued by waiting to dry.
Had to finish it in the right way.
Okay, thank you, Sergio. Thank you for that.
You gotta tie up those loose ends.
Yeah. The people would be listening and they're like, wait, are they still critiquing or what's going on here? I'm so confused.
Are they critiquing her commute? Are they critiquing her horse yet?
But I met you at Sketchy Nights.
Yes.
In Age and Ink. I don't know. Not that long ago. Maybe like
June.
In the summer.
June, July, yeah.
And it was like this thing where we artists all come and we would all doodle, except for some of us wouldn't because
yeah, some of us would just get drunk.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah, me too. But you were working on like these doodles that I saw that I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't know. I'm also just like an asshole. So I like walk around. I'm like, sucks. But in my head,
yes, no, me too, dude. I'm always just like, that looks great.
To nobody.
Look at a real motherfucking figure. Guys. Titties don't fall like that. Yeah, there's a lot of. I know this is like a point of, where people will butt heads, but like. I don't think everything is art. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love it.
It hurts, man. Do it.
Shots fired!
I would applaud that, but I don't know how that works.
It depends. Obviously art is like a fluid thing and everybody has their different idea of what art is.
Right.
What I think art is takes a lot more effort, and I haven't called myself an artist maybe up until like a year. I don't go and talk to people and I'm like, I'm an artist.
Right.
Like, I think that's pompous and absurd.
Yeah.
If other people are going to call me that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say like, I was born an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's usually my thing.
Listen, I came out of the womb and I had a paintbrush in my hand. It was a filbert. It was a fan.
But yeah, I totally agree with that statement. It's like, I don't know. It's the whole like everything is art is kind of like everyone needs a trophy in my head. That's like the whole, that's like the equivalent of, it's like, no,
True.
fuck that. Like, shit can suck and people can be okay with their, like, you should be allowed to be like, that's not good and be perfectly fine with that. I don't have to agree. I don't have to think that a pile of garbage in a room is something I have to ponder about and really be impacted,
Yeah.
It's like,
And
no,
you
thank
see
you.
it everywhere and it's like expensive as shit. Like $20,000 for a literal Dia beacon. I forgot the artist's name, but it was like a pile of dirt with a pane of glass in it. And I was like, do I dive in it? Like, do I touch it? There's certain things where I'm like, oh, God, dude. Like, this guy's probably praised to all hell to do the shit. And then you walk into, like, another room of that same museum, and there's, like, a Louise Bourgeois spider. And that thing was, like, casted in bronze, and it's standing on, like, 8 picks. How is it standing? It's beautiful, like that's total art. And she was working up until she was like 92, and all of my favorite thing about her is all of her helpers in her studio. When I saw her documentary, which is called like Oranges and something else.
I think it's called like Akira. Watch it.
Watch it now.
The backgrounds.
The backgrounds documentary, volume 2. Louise Bourgeois. Yeah. All of the people that were helping her in her sculpture studio were like these hot, strapping young men. And she's like bent over at a 90-degree angle, like taking you around. It's fucking hot.
That's awesome. She's like, shirts need to be off.
And they were. That was the funniest thing. Like when I saw that happening, I was just like, fuck yeah. I need to get into bronze sculpture.
This is what it gets you?
Yeah. Ooh, 5 hot men all named Chad.
But yeah, I mean, the whole idea of like art and I think the first time I ever heard that was like, or something like that was like Bjork saying like everything is music or everything is art. And I was like, what? No.
Hell no, Bjork. Stop. Just keep making whale noises. We love that.
But it's like, what are you talking? And I mean, I was really young when I heard that and I was like, that sounds like bullshit. And the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, there is like this craftsmanship that you have to really put value on, or else it fucks up everything. It's like that's the foundation that our house is built on as artists. And you take away like craftsmanship and skill, and then it's just a fucking free for all and like a fight to the bullshit top of the mountain. Bullshit. It is mountain.
A literal shit pile.
Yeah.
And I think that one of my biggest qualms with art and people that are stepping into this world now is a lot of them want to go straight to abstraction. And I look at their work and I'm like, do you even know how an arm actually works? Like, I personally am not that good at anatomy, and I don't know what's going on in there. The human body is insane, and both of you have it down packed in my eyes. I'm hell yeah.
I didn't know there was anything inside of it. I thought it was like a water balloon.
It is. It's full of meat.
Delicious. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're delicious.
I heard they taste like pork. I don't know.
Wink, wink.
I listen to a lot of murder podcasts. Yeah, I don't believe that you can truly abstract something without understanding how it works first. Because if you're going to abstract just the hand, say, and you're abstracting the pinky in a way, a particular way, like look at Egon Schiele. He knew how a body worked. And everything that he abstracted was consistently abstracted throughout the body.
Right.
So it held together really well. Obviously I'm not going to point out someone who doesn't do it well because I don't have anyone off the top of my head.
Well, I mean, talk about Jackson Pollock.
Yeah, but with Jackson Pollock, the reason why I kind of like his shit.
Don't you dare.
I'm sorry.
We're going
this is
there.
why his shit is funny to me. Because he was doing that shit with house paint, and he was throwing his cigarettes in it, and he was just fucking like igniting on this fucking canvas. He didn't give a fuck.
Right.
And now all the art museums are struggling to keep that shit saved because it's house paint. It's crumbling. It's not meant to be on canvas. So they're all freaking out because they're like, how do we preserve this? And I think that is the shit because you make them sweat.
Well, that's awesome. I like that, but I don't like Pollock still.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, but that goes back to like the whole idea of craftsmanship is like craftsmanship make things to last. It's like if you're a carpenter, you're trying to make it so it lasts forever. And that adds to how much the person will appreciate it,
Oh, yeah.
If you have fucking IKEA furniture, it's going to last you 3 years. You give zero shits about that thing. But,
I agree.
And you should pay less because of that, but
totally.
Something is really, if the craftsmanship is there, then it should add that value. The problem is art has kind of, for some stupid reason, said like, nah, we don't like that stuff.
Yeah.
And you go like, why not? Like what the, and now you got fucking Pollock pieces falling apart and you're like, well, that's what you fucking wanted.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe collect it and put it in a pile and then call that an installation, and people are like mind blown.
Yeah, the weird culture of people like staring at art and they're like,
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. Like, I like going to see portrait, like, old Renaissance paintings, mostly because I know how to decode certain things now. Oh,
you just spit off.
And some of my favorite things to decode are like the type of lace that are in each painting. So like if there's a painting of a servant and he has this big elaborate lace collar on with like cuffed sleeves that are lace. Well, that was like a big flex of wealth. They're like, we don't just get our own families painted, we get our servants painted, and our servants are decorated in lace. And lace was made by women in Venice at the time. And there was like this whole community of women, old and young, making lace. And the older women were going blind because of how tiny and detailed and intricate they are.
Wow. Teaching
these younger girls how to make lace. And that whole history is really cool when I'm looking at a painting of a servant.
Do you think the moms were ever like, stop looking at the lace, your eyes are going to go bad?
Well, I think that these girls were like, I'm pretty sure they were indentured servants or some sort of similar system. Mm-hmm. So they knew their destiny to be like these old crones making waves. But that whole history, like, that is so rich. And when you see a Pollock piece, you're like, yeah, this guy got drunk and like spit on his paint, like whatever.
Yeah.
I like the art that has that rich
for sure
background to it, you know. Yeah. And like Leonardo da Vinci, I didn't know
I've
those
heard
were
of
for
him.
play. That guy. I didn't know that those were like set designs.
Right.
Because that's what I'm doing now. Like, that's my day job, is one hat, one hand to San Francisco. Like, we just make sets, break them down.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. That's what we were just doing at the Facebook headquarters for the lizard person. He's terrifying.
It's the second podcast in a row where we talked a little bit about lizard people.
That zuck. Don't get zucked. That's what me and my friends call when you get your picture taken down for like showing a nipple. We call it getting zucked.
Getting zucked.
Yeah. Zuckerberg is watching and he doesn't like that nip slip.
Yeah. Zipped your zuck.
Yeah. But it's cool to hear that like these old artists were doing things like set designs. Like Francis Bacon was what do you call it? Like the shop window decorator. Huh. He did that. But then you look at his paintings and I'm like, you're a twisted meat weirdo.
For sure.
Painting things like that.
Yeah. I know we've mentioned it before, but like that's one of my big pet peeves with almost exactly what you're saying is that art is like a version of communicating, you know? Mm-hmm. And when you make it so that after, you know, it's like at the 1,000, I think I've said it before, like if in 1,000 years, if someone sees that fucking Pollock, they might get like they'll have no idea of your history, you know?
Yeah. Well, if they look at that without knowing any history, there's nothing to tell.
Right.
You know, besides like somebody probably had a panic attack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
about it.
But if you look at, you know, the Renaissance or whatever, you know, even like Rockwell and those guys or whatever, you still get a feel for that time and, you know, and the people in that time and things about that time. And it's talking to you in that way where splashing paint on a canvas is nothing. It's like in 1,000 years, that's nothing. You know, that's
totally.
That is it's a waste. I don't know.
Well, even like, you know, you didn't go to art college, but you still took the time to understand like why an arm bends like that or what happens to the muscles when they move in a particular way. Like some of them like contract and you see that when you're putting forth an effort to like study the figure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't care, you would just draw it as a tube, which it's not. And every human, doesn't matter how like well trained.
Sergio's arm's a tube.
Tubes. He's a wacky
I was gonna say,
man.
I stand in front of car dealerships.
Yeah, that's his job. He'll point it out. It's not nice. Yeah, I think it's super cool that like you don't have that training. You didn't have to have a professor like spitting in your face while they're explaining something to you. Right. Getting a little too close.
Yeah, unless I'm into that.
Well, then check out SBA for mere $40,000.
It's cheaper than what I usually pay.
What Dom Dungeons are you going to? How do I get employed there? Man, I need to buy latex.
Said everyone always.
Yeah. Baby powder. Always on deck.
But yeah, I don't have the debt, which is great.
I'm very lucky. Like my dad's VA benefits helped me out. He let me have that benefit.
That's
like
awesome.
Really? Oh.
They were giving him the option to go back to school to learn something because they pushed him into retirement. He would probably still be working in the Air Force if we let him.
Oh, yeah.
But, like he had to retire, so they gave him that option, or they gave the option of handing it down to, a family member.
That's
so
awesome.
I really have him to thank for that.
For sure.
Everybody else that went to that, so that's why I transferred from FIT in Manhattan to SVA, because that was now available to me, and I saw that SVA honored that.
Huh,
and I was like,
cool.
fuck this.
Did you do any cool exit? Like from the what was it?
From FIT?
Yeah,
Pooped in the elevator. No, I didn't. I didn't.
I was thinking more like the end of Breakfast Club, where you just kind of like I don't remember. He does like this whole monologue, and then he like just puts his hand up
and walks out. I don't remember the end of that movie.
Yeah, I think he like puts his hand. He's like, "We're the Breakfast Club," and he's just like. And walks away. You're like, okay, no one was watching. Like if you watched that and it wasn't a movie, if you just saw some guy like walking along a football field and just put his hands up, you're like, that is a fucking weirdo.
Yo, that guy's a serial killer. He fell on his head.
Yeah, or he thinks he's a superhero or something.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Then he Naruto runs out of the screen. That's what I love. All the Naruto running that's happening. Have you guys seen that?
Naruto running?
It's like an anime where like everyone that runs in the anime, they run with their arms like flung back.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so like nerds in high schools are doing that.
Oh, really?
Like it helps them run faster or something. Dude, it's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Plague is loving this part of
Yes.
the podcast.
Shout out
right
to
now.
you, Plague. I know you Naruto run. And you better run up to me that way next time I see you in the bar, Juan.
I knew this super nerdy kid in high school that used to run like that, but
That's where he got it from.
I don't think it was that. He was just, I think he was like Asperger's-y or something.
Probably.
And he was like, he did that kind of run. And I was like, that is hilarious.
Oh, it's the shit. And they do flash mobs of that now.
Really?
There's like 100 kids running in the street like Naruto.
Oh my god.
YouTube, check it out.
They've got everything there.
If you're having a shit day, look that up.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The YouTube, like my YouTube and my wife's YouTube, when you compare them, it's like we live in two different universes in the same.
Oh man.
Yeah, or two different galaxies in the same universe. It's like this weird YouTube thing where I'm like, how are you watching a lady eating Cheetos for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
People get paid to do that.
I know.
Love it.
That's what she told me. And I was like, okay. And I like watch like woodworking.
You just like look at her like crunchy or puffy. I don't know. What Cheetos are they eating?
It hurts my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Lauren's YouTube searches are so wildly different from mine because mine are like nerdy anime shit, and then his are like guns.
Right, yeah.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
So funny. But it's funny because we rant the same too. Like we do have very similar personalities. Like, he's ranting about one thing, and I'm like ranting about some bullshit. And it's probably gibberish, and it's to my cat.
Lauren, by the way, has been on the show. If you guys weren't of who she's talking about.
Yeah. Lauren is my partner.
Yeah.
Very angry man.
They know.
But yeah, they do know.
But yeah, that's awesome. God, I was going to say something. Oh, I was going to ask you what your search history is, Sergio.
Search history.
You just like
Plead the fifth. No.
twerk videos nonstop.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, go clear it.
Yeah.
Probably just like football highlights if I miss the games.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you that into football, Sergio?
I have been like recently these past few years, more so than usual, but yeah, I have no one to talk about it with. With artist friends at least.
Yeah, I got nothing for you, dude.
Yeah, football, ball sport.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to play
Are they
football
the
too.
Warriors?
Yeah, exactly.
But I watching sports in general to me is so boring.
Yeah. I do like the World Cup. That I definitely get down with the World Cup because
World Cup is
Soccer.
Okay. Oh yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
Bowl.
Obviously, I watch sports.
I got it. Is that the Super Bowl?
For some reason, I was thinking golf the whole time. I'm like, is that golf or tennis?
What's the difference between? Yeah. Actually, a funny thing about football is it has nothing to do with football, actually. It has to do with the Puppy Bowl.
Oh, okay.
Funny thing about football is
Not about football, about puppies.
Well, they have the kitten bowl now, too.
Oh, no, they don't. Holy shit, I'm watching. One hand has done the Puppy Bowl Stadium.
Really?
Past.
Wow.
Yeah, my fabrication shop.
I don't even
But
know
I
what this is.
The Puppy Bowl?
Yeah.
The Puppy Bowl is where they build like this little puppy stadium. They put a bunch of puppies in it, and it's
Like a miniature football stadium, yeah.
yeah, and they put a bunch of puppies up for adoption in it.
And then they do what? They play football?
Well, as best as they can try and make it look like they're playing football, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's like a.
They have like jerseys on and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Don't they? Yeah.
It's just like a cute video.
Yeah, I think it comes
Basically,
on like during
Okay.
commercials and shit.
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Or like halftime.
Okay. I thought this was like a real 2-hour thing. Like
You
the-
just have coaches like flinging puppies, like get in there.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, throwing their clipboard in the air.
Yeah. Oh, God. He's chewing on that bone again. The ball's over there.
Yeah. Foul. Wait, is foul a... Yeah. God, I haven't
That's
played football in
bird.
so long. I'm like, is foul even a thing?
Can you foul someone
I
during
think you
football?
can get a flag.
That's a penalty, but yeah.
Is it like
They
a
still
finger
call
up
it
the
a
butt? Like, I mean, they're tackling each other. What's a foul?
No,
in
finger up
football?
a butt is very much like a
Pretty foul.
reward.
Accidental happy slip.
Yeah. No one's mad at that when that happens.
Look at those spandex.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you should go to sports bars or something.
Yeah.
No.
Bro out hard.
Yeah, there's like guys there yelling
Yep.
about their team. You could find the one yelling, do you have a particular team that you like?
The Raiders.
Oh,
Oh, that makes sense. That's the one. Okay.
okay. Raiders. All right. And then, you just go into a bar, a sports bar, and you go like, sup, bro? And they go like, sup, bro? And then...
No, you go into the bar that is like the ones that don't like the Raiders, and then you try to turn them, and you're like, hey, come over here. Come to my bar.
Yeah.
Get on my team, because they always take really well to them.
Yeah, exactly.
It won't get you beat up, I promise.
But when I was younger, I used to watch football, and then there was a moment where I realized that whenever I'd watch it, I would wake up and be like, what's happening? And then I was like, I think I should stop watching football because I'm wasting my time.
Like, am I not into this anymore?
Yeah, like this isn't for me. And that's what I knew. So just a heads up, Sergio, if you ever start falling asleep every time you watch it,
You probably hate it.
you probably,
Yeah. I'll let you know if that starts happening.
yeah. Did you play sports at all?
I played soccer for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I played center mid because I had like way too much energy. So
Wait, I'm supposed to say,
What the fuck is that?
no, when you say center mid, I go like, skill position.
skill.
I don't actually know.
It's the we don't care if you're tired. You're gonna chase that ball the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that position because it was like the most active because it was just like the ball's there,
Right.
Or at least like as much as a teenager plays soccer and
For
takes
sure.
it seriously. Like I was kind of like a dog. I'm like ball.
Right.
Like I just need to chase it.
Yeah, I learned because we played like in a softball league 2 years ago and the year before that for MJ's job, my wife, and I learned that like baseball is so anxiety filled because
Oh yeah.
you're just sitting and waiting the entire time. We're like, I used to play football in high school, and that was always like I'm in charge of my own like thing, so
Yeah.
I'm just like.
Right.
I just do whatever I want to do kind of thing as
Yeah.
long as I stay in these rules. But that thing is like, it's such a reactive sport, baseball. I was like,
That's why they put all the kids with the ADD in the outfield, which is where I was when I played softball. They, like the kids in the outfield, we were like sitting on the ground, like picking grass and like peeling it apart and making it do the whistle thing.
I hated it.
Yeah.
It was miserable to me.
Wasn't my sport. I was like the go sports. Like, football is rad too.
Exactly. And your position in soccer sounds good.
Yeah.
But like the goalie is so reactive.
Yeah.
I feel bad for those people.
Yeah. Some of them don't really want, so a lot of people like being goalie. It's kind of like maybe they're cats. I don't know. They're like some swatting
shit away.
I wonder, because we have some European listeners, I wonder how much they hate the fact that we call it soccer.
Oh, yeah.
They got to be used to it by now.
Football.
Because real football is American football.
Hit that button.
We invented it. Hit that fucking button, Sergio.
Oh,
Real football.
USA! USA! USA!
Do you have an ole button?
Hell yeah. But yeah, I don't know. How are we doing on time?
We are almost at 2 hours.
Holy shit.
Cool.
That was super fast.
That's all those beautiful segues. I was like, let's not
Exactly.
talk about my art.
Exactly. You and Lauren are similar in that way.
I mean, I love talking about art. When I talk about my own art, there really isn't much going on there. The Plague Maid is probably the piece that has the most narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, the other ones, they're just fun. Like, I like going easy on myself. Like, I will be a perfectionist about like the form and like how I want to present something. But when it comes down to it, if I'm not having fun with it, I have to like stop and start something new. And then I'll go back to it and I'll find like, oh, cool. Like there's this thing that I never finished and, bring it along. But my art means nothing.
Sergio's like, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Speaking my language.
Totally. It means nothing. It's just fun. And another thing about like how people will word like, on their Instagram, they'll like post a picture and then they like have this little wording about it, the description. I love stumbling upon like the artist that has like okay art and then like this poetry about why this was made, and I'm like,
the
oh
oppression
god,
of...
dude. Stop stroking yourself.
I'll send you some accounts to look at then.
Put on that shit on YouPorn.
What was that one art account that's hilarious? It's not that. It's like they draw like the most hilariously bad things, and then they go into this long rant about the artist mindset. Do you remember that?
Is it
I think Monty and Leon showed us that. I can't remember what the fuck the name was.
Huh.
So this is pretty much uh-oh.
Was it like a parody account kind of? Like they were making fun of?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't like Twitter or not Twitter, like Instagram Picasso or something like that. What's it called? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
There's a
Or was
really
it Twitter
good
Picasso? I think it was called Twitter Picasso.
I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah.
So fucking funny. It was so
Twitter
good.
Picasso.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, I don't know.
Picasso's another one that could draw like a motherfucker, and then like
Don't get me
just
started.
decided. Well, the cool thing about Picasso,
We blasted that myth.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. Let me tell you this about him really quick before we like wrap everything up. Picasso, when he was 3 years old, there was or I think 3 or 4. There was a huge earthquake in Spain, and his mother was pregnant with his sister, I believe, and she went into labor during this extremely violent earthquake. So his dad picked him up and like had to also like help carry his wife. I think there was like a couple family friends there that were assisting her as well. And they had to go to the family friend's house. They had to get out of their house because it was like falling apart and his wife was in labor. So they're like, we need to get her to a safe space. So he was carrying a little baby Pablo and he was carrying him through these streets, and there were, bloody people. There was shit everywhere, and the earthquake was still happening. Like, it was a very violent thing. His mother's in labor, and all of this madness, he's being carried by his father, who's like super protective figure, obviously, in your life, and he's watching all this violence. And I wonder if that might have influenced some of his abstraction later on in his life, because that's super traumatic.
Right.
And then your mother's there writhing in pain, like crazy shit that happens in your subconscious. Like, how does that play into your current art?
I actually have almost a very similar story.
Really?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah. What was it, 89 or 90 earthquake?
Yeah.
My mom went into labor right when that happened.
Oh, really?
With
Wow.
you or
No,
a
with my
sibling?
sister.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So
Whoa,
I'm
check
Picasso,
it
is I guess what
out.
I'm trying to say. I don't know. To me, I don't know. I don't want to go on this whole rant
That's
against
totally
Picasso,
fine.
But
You're going to put that in your bio?
I think one of the big things is that he's very good at marketing.
Oh,
Picasso.
for
Oh,
sure.
Of course,
And I think
yeah.
even like this earthquake story, the whole time I'm like, that fucking guy, he's marketing the shit out of this story.
I forgot what artist did this research. I want to say her name was like Catherine. That's where I like read the essay about him. Like, he must have talked about it at some point if she was writing about it.
Yeah.
But she did extensive research into that exact earthquake and that time and what was happening politically and socially. So there's a lot of other speculative shit happening there. Because, like, I don't really know if she liked Picasso or not.
Right.
I think she was making, like, a theory about why he might have been making those, like, jumbled up weird faces. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't. My art's nothing, guys.
Said Picasso never.
Yeah.
But
My
that-
art is everything. He's
So
the opposite.
she wrote an article about him?
It was an essay,
Oh, an
and
essay.
I'll look it up and like try to send it to you guys later.
I think it's
on.
called like Akira
the musical,
Hear the musical.
article. Yeah. The
the
background.
musical, the essay.
Yeah. Yeah, part 3.
Yes.
So if you guys are trying to look that up. But yeah, this has been about 2 hours. We were supposed to ask you questions about your top favorite artists alive.
Oh, Pablo. No, alive.
Yeah.
I'll ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Is that a threat? Actually, I saw that you have a print of James Jean.
That's him.
That was the first print I saw of his work. Too,
Wasn't he
as
an
a girl.
SVA grad?
He was, yeah. I learned that from my etching professor, who I made this Ganesh etching that had a swastika in it, and no one knew that the swastika.
Oh,
I guess
so.
The actual.
Yeah, so everybody in SVA was freaking out because they're like, this girl's a Swazi Nazi. And so he loved the Ganesh because he knew what it was, and he's explained it to people that were like, you know, why is this hanging up in the hallway
Right.
with a swastika on it? So he explained it, and he wanted that piece for his collection that he has personally. And I was like, of course you could have one. Like, they're etchings, we have prints. And I saw one original James Jean etching in there, which was like his student work.
Wow.
And it was super cool because it was just like the profile of a face. And then you could see inside like the tongue and the brain. Like he did like an anatomical,
Embonomical.
an astronomical.
Okay.
Yeah, he made this really cool etching plate, and my collection's now in there. But this, so I was like super
That's amazing.
stoked, obviously.
Yeah.
He is absolutely still one of my favorite living artists.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Yeah.
He's so good, dude.
So it's
and
offensive.
his goddamn color palettes. That's another really big influence of mine because his color palettes are like so gorgeous.
They are,
Still some of
yeah.
the best I've seen.
Yeah.
He did do this new piece that listeners you should check out. It's the Sun Tarot, I believe, and it's this girl sitting in deep forest blues and greens, and those colors are actually really hot. The ones that he decided to make, they're very warm. Blues and greens, and she's sitting there and she's hot pink with this floral pattern all over her body, and she's holding up a sun tarot. And from that card there's these beautiful, so thin yellow beams coming out of it. It's such an amazing piece. I would just plaster my wall with that whole thing if he made a print that big.
Yeah.
But totally check out his new work.
For sure.
It keeps getting more mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite follows.
Yeah, he always has really good people that are visiting his studio too.
We're supposed to ask you what your top 5 are.
Shit, that's the only. Let's see. I mean, oh, man, a lot of them are tattoo artists.
That's fine.
That's cool. Yeah.
Jay McKenna in Australia, he does some weird abstract work that I really haven't seen in the tattoo world. Oh man, I should have thought about these top 5. That's okay. 2.
No pressure.
Crap. I feel like I'd have to look at my phone.
That's all right.
I do like all the artists that I work with at State of Grace. Like I said, Tomo's work is so inspiring, and to know him personally is like such awesome. A treat. Colin Baker, I love his art as well. He is extremely detailed for what he does for tattooing. Hand of the Forge is Caroline at FTW, and her stuff is super traditional, but it is amazing what she pulls off, like in her own style. Like, it is purely hers, and I could like tell you when I see it in the streets, I'm like, that's Caroline's for sure.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I'll, the few people that are super close that I could like go visit, it's really quite lovely to have those artists close. The Bay Area is like covered in artists.
Yeah.
Oh, and Shrineon. I don't know his actual name. Shrineon.
No, I'm not familiar with Shrineon.
His stuff is really beautiful. He goes to a lot of like third world countries and like will paint beautiful details and patterns on like old decrepit buildings and like breathe new life into them.
That's cool.
And I think he's from Petaluma.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
He works with like old bottle caps and stuff, and like will make shrine looking things. It's beautiful. So I guess it's my 6th.
Deal. Awesome.
To look them up.
Yeah. We also have one other question.
What would you do with David Cho money?
Oh yeah, Lauren told me about this one. Punch him in the face. If I had that much money, man, it's hard to think about that stuff because you would never imagine it. Right. I feel like I'd be trying to funnel it back into other programs. Like, I would definitely give a good chunk of it to Mill Street Loft. But obviously, get a really nice old car.
Always goes back to transportation.
Yes. I do have a motorcycle that I really love, and that's the nicest thing I own. It's a Ducati.
Nice.
62 Scrambler, baby. 2016.
Is that because of Akira?
Yes. Absolutely a big influence. Like, I could have got a Harley, but I was like, I want to go fast.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you'd had David Cho, you could for sure buy a car and then only have like 200 and something million left.
Yeah, exactly.
What do I do now?
I was like, shit, well, I guess I'll get those boots I really
Exactly.
Yeah, the question for you should be like, what would you do with, I don't know, who has like mediocre money?
Yeah, what would you do with $5? I'd go buy a 40.
Good move.
That's a better question.
That's probably the best thing you can buy with $5.
Yeah, I'm a $5 nair. I'm a thousandaire. I don't know if you had $1,000.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think this has been it.
That's been it.
We did
guys. Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah, this was awesome. Yeah, shout out to Brave Castle. By the way,
I think I'm going on that next.
Hell yeah.
Obviously, when I go home.
Yeah. A mic in front of your face when you get in.
Yeah. Lauren is also, he has been one of my favorite artists. Like, even before we started dating, way before.
He's hating what you're saying right now.
I know. I can hear him cringing. Like, but, I mean, I tell him to his face, like, I'm covered in his tattoos. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Right.
I found his stuff on Instagram, and I wanted to get tattooed by him. And I traveled up from Oakland to get tattooed by him. He's an idiot for not thinking he's good at it. And I know he's listening, so.
But yeah, he hated that. All of that.
Spiky points. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
If they want to follow you, your Instagram is Gan_Dalf.
DALF.
Yeah. Wait, does that mean you said your sister's name is what? You said it earlier.
Stephanie Intellisano.
Is Stephanie's last name Dalf? Is it Steph Dalf?
Steph Dalf. Ooh, she would love that. I actually couldn't pronounce her name when I was little, so I called her Deaf. So it'd be Steph Dalf.
Deaf Dalf.
Deaf Dalf.
I like that.
Her Instagram is Stephanie Intellisano.
Okay.
And you could probably just find her through my Instagram.
For sure.
But her work is beautiful. Check it out, too.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Yeah, this has been Waiting to Dry. Thank you so much. If you're still listening, fuck off.
Watch your profanity.